us begin. We're going to call this meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. And having more or less done the roll call, I think that satisfied. Okay, good. You know how strict we were. Do we have a motion around last meeting's minutes?
I can move to approve them.
Any seconds?
I second.
Okay.
I didn't realize how loud that thing was. I never heard it.
So that motion passes.
Yeah.
Are there any members of the public who would like to be heard at this time? Seeing none, we will move on.
I don't want to derail the agenda or anything, but I am curious. A few times recently, people have mentioned, I've mentioned being on the board, and people have mentioned, oh, I want to come and say something, and I keep encouraging them to, like, yeah, sure, join the meeting, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What other channels are there for members of the public to provide feedback, I guess, directly to the library? So this might be more a question for John and not for, like, all of us, but I've also, because I've had these conversations, I've collected feedback, and I don't think maybe this meeting is like a great place for me to just tell you all the feedback I've been collecting from the public, but maybe it is, I don't know. What is the best channels that I should be suggesting to people?
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, you certainly can. I mean, it's within the agenda, minimally at the end when there's library board comments, that's kind of a free-for-all, and that might be a place to share it. Or if it's something you feel like is pertinent, then like that deserves its own agenda topic to discuss, and then I would let Jamie know and have it be created as a topic from some feedback. And then from the library's side, there's a couple ways. On our website, there's an email address they can fill out. They can even go through Ask a Librarian, really, because if it's some feedback that'll get to me. But there's a couple places on the website where they can do that, or email me directly. I mean, anything. And if they're here, I think we still have them out. There might be some like physical comment cards if that's someone's preferred method to like handwrite something. We have a feedback card, or they can just write something and then give it to any staff member, and then they bring it to me and put it in my box.
Okay, cool. I basically told most recently when this happened, I was like, you can also just email me, and I'm happy to like read a letter out to the board meeting or whatever, or I can forward it along to you or whatever. But haven't gotten that email yet, so I guess it wasn't as exciting as they seemed to make it in the moment.
Yeah,
It's a great question, and I'm really glad that you're bringing it because I haven't seen anybody show up to one of these meetings from the public yet, and I would like to discuss with this board in the new year what ideas or tactics we might employ to encourage more community engagement. And I think finding a way to message why someone might come, how they can get their message to us if they can't come, that sort of thing, like that'll be an interesting thing to explore in a month or so. Okay, we have an icebreaker.
Yes, okay. Options. So, favorite or highly recommended holiday read, either from childhood or something you like as an adult. Could be holiday related or just a great winter read. And or if you have a book you would like to get as a gift this year, what's on your list?
Oh.
So whichever is easier. I can go first because I had time to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I grew up every year reading The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. Did anyone read that growing up? Sounds like you know it. Yes, and I just, it was
a movie in the 80s.
I think they did. I've never seen it, but it actually was a movie right now, which I'm shocked by. I haven't seen it, but it was like, my mom was like, it's in the theaters, you have to go, and then we didn't go. But it's, if you haven't read it, it is like kind of a YA or like upper elementary book, I think. And it's about this family. It's really about like class problems in this town, which I didn't understand necessarily as a child, but it's like about this family that the mom is trying to put on this Christmas pageant with a hodgepodge group of kids, and this family that is struggling and is known for being really kind of mean and nasty to other kids wants to be involved in the Christmas pageant. And so there's this sort of class conflict in the pageant, and they of course, you know, find out about the true Christmas spirit and accepting others. It's quite lovely. So anyway, anyways, I highly recommend. And I guess you could see the movie.
Did read that.
Did you? Imogene Bergman?
That was a long
she ends up as Mary. It's not a spoiler, I think. It's pretty good.
I'm feeling fourth grade about it.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
I probably, my grandma would read it to me, and
Yeah.
I definitely could read it myself, I think.
That's the warm up alert.
Yeah, it's at boiling temperature.
Oh, sorry.
okay.
The tea or-
The hot water. Sorry, you wouldn't.
That's okay.
Nicole, there's like some sheets in hot water. Anyway. The hot water apparently sings a song when it's hot. I never knew
Never
that.
knew.
How
What
lovely.
a lovely spread. I didn't even see that. Like,
With good use of technology.
Somebody else?
I mean, okay, I'll go. Mine is more of a listen to, but David Sedaris Sailing Diaries.
Yes! Oh.
I mean, with the Macy's,
So good.
hands down.
That was so
Like every
on my
year,
head.
oh my
Yes.
god, it's so good.
So good. And the way he tells it.
Oh yeah,
So-
you have to you almost have to listen to
Yes. I mean, I'm sure it's funny on the page, but the way he
Probably.
tells it is
Yeah,
so
the scene.
good.
Oh my god, I love
Oh, so good. Yes. I'm gonna have to listen to that.
it. It's a nice thing that you can consume within 20 minutes or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. While you're doing your holiday shopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Well, since John took mine.
Oh!
There's a list there.
That was fast.
Excellent.
Yeah.
No.
There's no rules for repeating. I don't
Yeah, you can
think.
say why you love it.
Probably the same reasons. But I also have like a small stack of children's picture books that some of which were mine as a small child, but like
Oh, yeah.
read them to my girls when they were little, and now they're older and they still want me to read them with them. So it's kind of one of these few, increasingly few ties to their childhood that we revisit around this time of year. And my favorite of that batch is, oh my gosh, and it's a well-known author too, but the book is like the Doll's Christmas.
Oh, yes.
Um,
The bear, too?
Is there a bear in that?
Oh, maybe not. Yeah, I'm missing
It's illustrated story about like these Victorian like porcelain dolls who live in this big fancy dollhouse, and they have all of the furnishings and things, and it's Christmas time, and you know they get into some shenanigans, but it's just beautifully illustrated.
Tasha Tudor.
Tasha Tudor.
What a name.
Who's such an eccentric character that, yes, I learned about her first, and then that prompted me to seek out her books.
Oh,
Because you would read the book and just be like, oh, what an imaginative and talented person this author must be. And she was, but there was much, much more.
Oh, interesting. Now we have to read her biography too.
Yes.
Okay.
It's better when you know her biography.
I haven't read that one. Anyone else?
Nicole's ready.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really, because I don't know if I have a good answer to this. I feel like I have half answers to all of this. I don't
I
like
know. I
reread a book every year or anything like that. I mean, we do a lot of the children's books. I think my favorite one to read to them aloud is The Grinch, because it's amazing. And we do the like kind of Christmas Eve tradition of everybody gets a new book, which I like. That the first present of Christmas is open on Christmas Eve, and I mean, obviously my kids are like whatever, but it's actually impossible because my husband is really hard to buy real, like he reads everything on our Kobo, the Kindle kind of thing. But I like to give a paper book, and so I always get him like a coffee table book kind of thing because he won't actually like read anything else. So this year I'm pretty excited because I got him one. Like I forget what the title is, and I could look it up, but it's all like kind of newish deep space photography. So it's all of the new, not like the Hubble, but the new camera that just sent back those really cool photos of like deep space galaxies and stuff like that. So there's a really cool coffee table book of all of those printed out. So I'm excited about that one for the first time. Normally I'm like, I'm not really excited about your book because you're not going to read it, but that one he might. So.
Yeah, that's like an Islamic tradition, right? The book flood. There's like a name for it.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to try that. That's inspiring.
Yeah, the thing I want to do, I think at this point we actually have enough books, like picture books in our Christmas collection that I want to actually do the like advent calendar of like wrapping up the books and opening one on each day in December or whatever. And I really feel like we actually have 25 Christmas picture books at this point, so it could work.
So thinking about the kids, well, my kids are 32, 25, and 22.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time, but we had a whole collection, a bunch of Jan Brett books.
Oh yes.
And the Mitten. Yes. There was the, this one was Knocking on Christmas Eve. This one we have The Night Before Christmas, just for illustrations and amazing. My kids love those. So every
Each page is like a little puzzle.
Yes, yeah, and all the little details.
Edgy.
They find
Yes.
a new little detail in there. So that kind of reminds me of
That's awesome.
Christmas. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna pull those out. Waiting for grandbabies then.
Yeah.
Me, I can't find the title of this book, but it's a juvenile fiction. I don't remember the author either, but I remember reading it often, almost every year as a child. And it's about this little boy who is like getting ready for Christmas, and it's Christmas Eve, and there is like a disturbance in their yard. They're like in the back country, out in the middle of nowhere. And there's some kind of disturbance, and so the dog runs out to go see what's going on, and they like don't see the dog for hours, and so the little boy goes out and like tells his dad, I'm gonna go see if I can find the dog. So he goes out, and it's like this whole journey of kind of finding like the magic, I guess, of Christmas, because he does end up finding the dog and coming back home, but just kind of like almost like a coming of age story, sort of. So he kind of just gets that like confidence to face the fear of the night and find the dog and then bring him back home. And then, yeah, it's Christmas Eve. So I'll find the title in the notes. But it was really good. It's juvenile, so it's that age group. But it was a really nice little tradition for me. And I hope my daughter eventually, when she can read that, will also love that. So I will find the title, but I can't remember.
This was the fun one.
Yeah. Everybody's got some new ones for your list now, too.
I just have to say, when someone brings up a coffee table book, I go to Seinfeld right away. The coffee table book that's also a coffee table.
So many classics.
Oh my god. There's no shortage, but that's just
Yeah.
I can't, my brain is tired, I can't make a clever segue from icebreaker to collection development.
We need all these books in our collection.
Exactly. There you go.
There we go. I'm type 2, and that's all I got.
But that's what's next.
That's the next agenda item. So, let me here. I'll bring this up. I don't know if you had a chance when you received the packet from Tracy, but I did include, so the selector is what we call them in the library, anyone that does purchasing of collections, which ranges from adults to children's, and it's just good practice every couple of years or so to review your collection development policy, and I was very deliberate about it this year because, as you might remember, we redid the whole request for reconsideration, and I felt like we needed to make sure this was in alignment and if there was anything missing. And we didn't make major changes in the end, but we added some formats and we redid a few things in here. And so as I'm talking, I'm trying to bring this up for you, Nicole. Can you see that?
Oh.
Sorry, is this also
That's
attached?
so
This is
much
attached to
easier.
the
It is
email, right?
attached.
It is
Okay, perfect.
attached, so yeah.
Okay.
If that's
I've got
easier.
both then.
Then what?
I can also see it on there.
Do you have it in front of you elsewhere? Is the sharing easier, or do you have it?
I have it, so you can not share.
I'll
It's
stop
easier for
sharing.
you.
It's
That's
actually
good.
easier to see you then. I'm assuming oh wait, I should ask the people in here. Is this better to have it up here?
I think so.
I still don't have to share. Whatever. Anyway, let's just leave it. And not talk through it. So, I can kind of go through this a little bit and kind of point out some areas that we did modify, and there'll be and just so you know, so as a team we went through, made all these changes. I certainly wanted to bring it to this group, and if there's any questions or anything to kind of, maybe we missed something or something we want to revisit, we can. But outside of that, then I would send it to the city attorney's office because it's a policy. They would want to review that before it gets posted and kind of signed off on for the next few years. So a lot of the stuff up here is the same. It's really, when I say the same, if you haven't read it in a while, but
Were there any changes of note? Or-
yeah, so in selection criteria, we just kind of cleaned stuff up and clarified things that we felt were either vague, or not specific enough in some cases. So in criteria, not so much in the explanation of it, but more in the bullet points. And I'm trying to remember, I probably should have left the track changes because I remember what we changed. But there was some cleanup, like for example, accuracy of content. This was a much broader statement, a much longer statement is what I should say, and it was too limiting. And we were kind of questioning, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And also the criteria, the main thing with the criteria is that this statement of criteria basically includes, because it said before, like, this is the criteria. And the reality is it could be any one or combination of this of how we go about selecting.
Yeah.
So we felt like
That's more clear.
yeah.
It also allows the possibility for other criteria that aren't named.
Correct. Yeah.
And also, it's not like, I like that not every item which meets one or more criteria will be added, but there's still discretion on that side too.
Right.
Which is good.
As I'm scrolling through, I'll try to look at anything from my eyes that's different, but
I mean, the children and teen collection section just says that you have the same criteria. And I could imagine someone questioning that, so I'm just curious like how that distinction lives in your mind, or if a distinction there lives in your mind.
the main point of pointing out children and teen is that the library is not responsible for who accesses anything.
Right.
Which is even more specifically stated in the challenge policy.
I was gonna say, which is what a lot of people get upset about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just, it's almost like an exercise of redundancy
Okay.
to again point out that as a public library, we're not responsible for what your child picks up or reads. That's the responsibility, and so that's in large part what all that is saying. As far as like selection criteria, it's very similar. There's going to be some differences with children
Yeah.
and teen, as far as they might pay more attention to what we collect and they might pay attention more to the school district and what they're reading and grade level reading and making sure we have a good variety of things.
Right.
So that a lot of the questions they get is, my fourth grader is struggling to read. What suggestions do you have? Or what do they like and that kind of stuff. So.
But you didn't feel that necessary to put like a bullet point list there too, kind of reflecting that.
Correct,
part.
because it's the same. I mean, it's generally the same. Let's see, we're doing formats. There was something like that. Oh, actually,
funny with spacing.
well, don't worry about it. Yeah,
Oh.
I'll clean this up.
Yeah.
Didn't,
I
yeah.
can't help it. It's
No,
sorry.
it's okay.
I'm off my teacher brain.
This is better than it was before I saved this and delivering it here. But there was because everyone was editing.
Oh yeah.
There was
it's crazy.
people had different fonts and it was
See,
kind of
that's like my glitter.
yeah. I didn't like it either. I didn't like it
What I
either.
did.
Yeah, exactly.
Formats didn't change a lot. The biggest thing we added here was actually graphic novels. It wasn't
Yeah.
stated anywhere.
Oh,
And
good.
it was a suggestion of ALA that you really should point out that that's a format that you collect
Yeah.
because it's such a big thing and it's separate from anything else. Otherwise, it was sort of included in books, and it's like, well,
Right. Yeah.
um,
Is the Library of Things worth mentioning in here?
Is that considered a collection?
I was wondering about that.
it doesn't really fit how we collect
Okay.
as far as in this sense.
Okay.
Yes, it's collections, but then we have a lot of other things that we fit in there too. Like we check out hotspots, we check out Chromebooks. So
Yeah.
I think this is more on reading materials or reading and or listening.
Okay.
Not so much that,
Because it just says
That's a good
non-traditional
question.
/ 3D.
which is kind of what I guess that's kind of what that's.
I have more special collections. Like I was just not sure if it should be named
Like parentheses, e.g.
Library of Things, maybe,
Because like
or-
it's so intriguing to me to think about what non-traditional 3D materials might you have.
I know. I'm like, what? Yeah. Are these the telescopes?
Or I'm thinking like, is it a pop-up book?
Scratch and sniff. It's like the fourth dimension.
Holograph.
4D.
Like it's, everything else in that list is so specific. Print, colon, da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, da. So could you have like non-traditional 3D colon and then a couple of examples?
Like selected items in the Library of Things. Or, yeah.
And not to take us backward, but the one aspect of the paragraph about the children and teen collection that I would anticipate somebody wanting to know about, like if I wanted to know about your criteria around putting something in that collection, reading that you follow the same criteria as the general collection covers most of that, but it doesn't cover that question of like, well, how do you determine whether something is age appropriate? Either age appropriate for this section versus the adult section, or age appropriate teen room versus juvenile fiction. Do the selectors go by what's in the like what it's cataloged as, or I know there's
Yeah.
gray area.
But I literally called like 2 weeks ago and asked this exact question. Oh, because my daughter had been recommended a book, and I went online, and the reviews were like wildly divergent, and I didn't have time to read it. And because I always kind of check, where does this land? And I called the librarian. I said, "Where do you shelve this?" And they're like, "Oh, they should shelve that in adult." I was like, "Okay, I trust your judgment,"
Right.
So I feel like there is something about that. Where does it get shelved that is useful information for people? I don't know how that
Yeah,
would be
or like,
reflected, or like.
if you were to have somebody challenge something and be
Right.
like, this doesn't belong in here, like,
It's a very common challenge.
It is very.
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, like, it's probably pretty common with, YA, that,
Or some graphic novels.
Oh,
like
that's
crossover
the
into
biggest
manga,
thing.
right? Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, it's still a question, like, how would I answer that if I were asked that about this library? Like, how do you
Like, what would the criteria specifically?
How do you determine
Yeah.
whether something belongs in the children's and teens collection? If there's a ambiguity.
So basically, outside of this sort of narrative here, something more like up here that kind of points out specific criteria.
Yeah, or maybe like in addition to the above criteria, children and teen librarians can also consider school district reading lists and whatever factors
Right.
go into this when things are ambiguous.
You don't repeat everything.
Right,
No,
yeah. But maybe just like a couple bullet points that might head off some concern or something.
The children and teen collection selectors follow the same principles guiding development of the general collection, comma, with the added layer of or added consideration of ... in determining
Whatever professional
age.
librarian speak is
Yeah.
for.
Exactly.
It's a good question. I'll bring that back.
Determine shelving location.
Because I put a lot of faith in that as a parent, in that discernment. Oh, I do. Because I have a kid who's a high reader, but a young person, who's a gap.
Yes.
So I'm really always struggling to find the challenging read that's emotionally appropriate for her, And I don't, there's not a lot of content that bothers me, but she gets triggered sometimes,
Oh, bless you.
It's a challenge.
What a lucky child.
I'm lucky to have these librarians.
To not have to discover flowers in the
Oh no! I feel like we're bringing up old trauma. Jamie, I'm sorry.
Who was having these conversations in the 80s?
Oh, the 80s were a very different time.
Good questions and good points. So, and then I think I mentioned about formats. There's not much change there except for graphic novels. And then 3D I made a note of. Special collection was cleaned up. This was a lot longer and actually had some bulleted stuff, but it was that was a little tricky. So we just kept it to we might have special collections because that can kind of change and. Then we felt like we had to list out everything that what is a special anyway. It was just not worth it.
Is that an example of a special collection? Like, I'm trying to think of one that does not fall into one of the other categories.
Do we have like a
Well, I think
Longmont history collection?
well that's
or
one thing
something,
that
or
was
like-
here.
Yeah.
So in special collections, I think it was here. Let me scroll a little bit. Sorry. Yeah, it was in special collections. So what we took out, it started to bullet point like archives,
Yeah.
and this stuff lives in the museum
I was gonna say, and then.
So it kind of was something that was here,
Mhm.
but it was never taken out of policy.
That's a good catch.
Yeah, and so we were just like, let's just not, yeah.
So what is the objective of mentioning them here? Just,
In case we get some.
Yeah.
okay. So-
Yeah, and a lot of libraries have some sort of special collection, so I think it was worth having a statement about it.
You donate your library.
Yeah.
Funds. You know, you get like somebody's thing, you know. One question I had was just about textbooks and other curriculum related material.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't have textbooks, but I think I have seen in my regulations the like LSAT study guides and GRE study guides and those kind of things. Are those like a separate genre, kind of, in a textbook or whatever?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's, I mean, test prep as
Test
opposed
prep
to a
is
textbook.
Okay.
That,
Yeah.
yeah.
And those are more, they're just less unwieldy to keep on hand than a bunch of textbooks or something.
They get outdated quickly. It's just not kind of really within our purview to collect them in that sense. So.
I love that there's a section on will and stuff. Yeah.
Because that comes up.
Yeah, we can't have everything.
Do you get approached by a lot of like self-published authors? I was gonna say. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you have that put to exemption. That's kind of tedious.
Yeah. And in fact, that bullet point expanded into this whole statement about guidelines for authors and publishers, so that there's sort of a process for that. And, you know, but we get that a lot. Like, I wrote a book, you know. So it's pretty deliberate here on how we're presenting that. You'll see here one thing that's still being kind of finalized is this guidelines and a form to fill out. So that would be, someone could fill out a form to explain what they have, you know. But we're also very, if you look at this, you know, it's, you know, we're not taking in any and everything that someone publishes. It has to be reviewed. There has to be, you know, some sense of vetting before it's collected. But we're pretty, realistically, we're pretty generous with local authors anyway. Not necessarily the self-publishing aspect, but we try to do the best we can with that, space limiting and everything else that is in here. And then donations. I don't know if that changed too much. That was pretty much intact.
Just stay carefully with
Yep.
Right. Okay. We'll get into it.
One other question I had, okay. Just with regard to like Prospector and the availability of books across the whole network, like how do you decide what needs to be in our collection? Because it's so easy to get things through Prospector. Like, is there a particular distinguishing feature of like what we want to have ourselves?
It's kind of across the board, you know. I mean, so a lot of it's dictated. I mean, a lot of it's not hard because it's like reviews and every library is collecting it, right? Because it's popular and you want. But when it gets beyond that, it might inform that. You know, and it could be based off something like has long hold lists.
Okay, yeah.
And so even if we didn't consider it before, we might now, if we have the room for it to help kind of reduce that layer. We do it a lot with ebooks. That's a lot of how we purchase ebooks is just by adding copies because the hold lists get long. And that's instantaneous when you do it.
That's awesome.
So, but it kind of follows the same rule.
Do they cost the same?
No.
Ebooks? Oh, good.
Ebooks are hugely expensive.
Ebooks are expensive. Oh, I thought it was the opposite.
Not at all.
Oh. call it?
Nope, it's a whole publishing,
Stan?
I was maybe gonna come up with a different word, but that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Oh, that stinks.
Oh, no, it's that they just have a stranglehold.
It's about it from.
It's a racket.
It is a racket.
Yeah.
From the angle of lost revenue.
Right.
They want to recoup lost revenue
Yeah.
from people borrowing the same book over and over again
Right.
instead of buying a brand new copy.
Right. I mean, I use the library book. Like, make books.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And film licensing is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if like, I don't know, when you screen films, you have to get
Special
licensing to screen it for the public.
Correct.
And it's a lot more than a movie ticket.
Yes.
Oh, sure, hugely. I mean, it depends on the film.
Right.
Yeah. Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Where were we? Replacements. We got for donations. This is the other spot I would think there would be a lot of questions from the community around the withdrawal of library materials.
Because you think people would be upset when something gets taken out?
Potentially.
Maybe. Do people get upset about it?
Not necessarily. I just think it's important to state that as much as we collect, we can't just collect and not take
Yeah.
out to have space. So it's just sort of,
Yeah.
okay, so then how do you decide that? Well, this is how we decide. And again, it's any combination. I mean, it could be the most popular thing in the world, but if it's worn out or damaged or just yucky, we're going to take it out.
Right.
We'll probably buy other copies of it, but outdated, obsolete. That's certainly that's a librarian call as far as what is it. It's not really going to fall a whole lot in the fiction area. I mean, it can, but more in the nonfiction area. But of what might determine that. And then in demand is generally circulation, right? And that's another example of where we might have something that doesn't check out a whole lot, but if I think about the Front Range consortium that we share with, not necessarily a prospector because that gets broad, but just up here like Boulder, Louisville, Lafayette,
Who else has
and Loveland,
copies?
who has copies?
Right.
And no one that does, then we may be less inclined to withdraw it, even if it's not checking out. This, unless it's not hasn't checked out for decades or something. So there's just a lot of various reasons.
And to explain to someone this weekend why a book that they took out of the library that was had some water damage, they said they returned it early because it was gross. And I did not ask them if they told the librarian about it or if they just put it back in the drop, but they had found the same book in pristine condition at the book sale. And they wanted to know why the library didn't take the new copy. And I had to explain that, the streams don't really cross, like the staff are not going through the donations and the volunteers are not, wouldn't know what to bring to the staff's attention as hey, do you happen to need a replacement for this book? So.
It's a little counterintuitive. Like you would think.
I don't know how common that line of questioning is, but I thought it was interesting. I was like, yeah, no, they're not in constant communication about what's coming in and what's going out. They're two separate collections, if you will. Well, it can't be cross-referenced.
Yeah. Well, aren't library books actually built differently to be more sturdy too? Right?
Do they have a different covering?
Not necessarily. I mean, what does happen, not the book itself, I mean, you know, if we, either we do it or we order it this way, it will come with like the plastic, the Mylar kind of protective,
Yeah.
things like that to help it last a little bit longer.
Do you buy things with library binding anymore? Is that
It's almost hard
an
to,
option?
it's hard to, I mean,
Could
you know,
cost
most of
reasons?
what we buy is hardback.
Yeah.
You know, we get some paperbacks, but, because they just last longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean,
It's not the reinforced.
no, and it's like cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
So you just take whatever they're sending you, which is glued.
And not everything's available now. And now we get into the request to reconsider or evaluate.
Yeah, and this was just kind of rewritten to be in line with how we proceed with that. I don't remember what was here, of course, but it was, there was some statement about it, but we expanded on it. It wasn't much, it was like a sentence, I think. Because like patrons who meet the eligibility requirements, because we revised that to say you have to be a resident or library card holder. You have to do it in person, so that's why it states that the packets are available at a desk. You know, just some things, and that that it's up to me to consider and respond back, and within a time period. And then most of that's detailed in the actual packet, but at least it's stated here that as a resident and library card holder here, you have a right to say something to me that you don't think something belongs in the collection and why. You know, so.
I forgot that it wasn't an online thing, so I'm glad that you put the how you access it.
Yeah, and that was a big discussion in the same group when we were working on
Yes.
that. And
Yes,
it was
I
just like,
remember.
no, we don't want to.
Came
Some
back to me.
libraries do. We may have to at some point.
Put it online.
State statute.
Oh, really? Is that being proposed?
That ours? Legislation on us?
That's passed.
Oh.
The state statute on the whole like book, the book banning statute passed, but it doesn't state that
Oh, okay.
currently.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it says you have to provide something. You
Yeah.
have to have a policy,
Yeah.
and so we have that. It doesn't say the format.
Is that the piece of legislation that, was like, not a loophole, but it says something applies to libraries that have boards of trustees, and it didn't apply
Yep,
to us because we're a different
correct.
structure.
That was our city attorney's take, is
Right.
because they specify board of trustees that certain aspects of it wouldn't be relevant here. I think that's a little bit of a gray area, but, you know, I guess we'll cross that bridge
Yeah, I
if
was
it
gonna
gets to that level.
Mm.
Outside of a board of trustees, you know, it would be, in our scenario, it would be city council.
Yeah.
It would be city council that would be deciding. As the decision-making body for the library,
Right.
outside of the library. So, yeah.
And this is making me think too, back to what you brought up at the beginning of the meeting, Nicole. When we do get to the point where we want to maybe invite or at least define for the community why they might consider communicating to us, the Library Advisory Board. I wonder if it would be good to get real specific about the kinds of things that this board has influence over, or what falls within our purview, so that we don't waste somebody's time coming here to protest or request something that is like library operations, that would be, you know, something that they should, you know, like almost like a flow chart, right? If you have something that you would like to say about collection development, et cetera, then here are the contacts for the library, for John and staff. And then if you want to say something about thinking that the library deserves more funding, well, you would be preaching to the choir to come to this board. So might you also consider making that statement at a town council meeting?
So that was actually the exact question that I had, because I mean, two of the different pieces of like feedback I had was like basically somebody being like, there's not enough ebooks, and my kind of recommendation is like, you know, that goes into like funding and things like that. Like I think everyone here on the board knows that problem, but maybe that's something where we can do a you know, getting more members of the community to go to city council meetings or whatever it is, especially when it comes around funding time. And then, but the other one was kind of like children's programming, so I wasn't sure about that one. Like, I mean, none of these things seem to be advisory board pieces of feedback, if that makes sense. However, they are community feedback that I think maybe, and you know, maybe they impact funding or maybe they impact operations or something. And so, if we are advising either council or, you know, the library itself, I don't know if we can kind of help get the community's opinions in front of the right people. That seems to be our role. So.
Anything more that you wanted to share around this? Are you looking for just what we've been doing, just kind of questions and feedback?
Yeah, I think the questions I have, and the ideas, I'll bring back to the team that's working on it and kind of see thoughts there. And then if we have something, I'll bring it back here, or if not, I'll explain the reasoning of it.
Anyone else have a comment or question for John around collection development? Thank you for sharing that with us. We're super lucky to see what everybody's working on. We're going to dig into some old business, which feels like a funny way of reintroducing the board membership conversation, but technically we have discussed it before. So I am not aware of any concrete updates around our selection of new board members. We are not celebrating, is not the right word, but we are recognizing this meeting as Kat's last meeting. Official meeting on our board for now. And so just again, really grateful and honored to have learned from you and to have your wisdom and insight and all of the contributions. And so, you know, have you been connected to this board for a while? Or is this
I think when I started, Scott Converse was on, Mark.
Springfield.
Okay.
The other Catherine.
Yes, the other Catherine.
Yeah, so I don't feel like I could describe everything that Kat's brought because I came in the way.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, we all appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been a good run.
When might we know about the
Tomorrow, we're voting tomorrow.
Very good.
Yeah.
So you probably won't know tomorrow.
But we will know before the next meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And is the next
Wednesday,
meeting?
they'll be notified
Okay.
Wednesday.
And who communicates with whomever is not elected?
is that John?
So city clerk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions or comments about this agenda item? We're just waiting. We will now turn it back to John for library vision and value statements.
All right. I will share again. So with strategic planning, which we've talked about here before, so as staff have been working through that, going way back to whatever it was this summer, was that in September when we did our retreat?
September.
Yeah, and so, you know, we've been going through and adding and making revisions, but one of the largest things we felt like we've completed at this point, is our mission and vision and core values. And so we've spent a few meetings on this, and so I wanted to share this with the board on this. The mission was completed a while ago. In fact, Jamie was a part of a small subgroup that worked on, and Tracy too, as far as staff goes, and then we had one other staff person that came up with our new mission statement, which is on the top here, obviously, and then that was kind of solidified a little while ago, and then as a leadership team, we've been working through coming up with a vision statement and core values, and this is what we've come up with. And so I can kind of let you. This is not something I put in the packet because I just decided to share it here with you. So I'll leave it for a minute so you can kind of look through some of this, and then I'll talk.
I wonder if it might be nice for us to take turns reading parts of it out loud, or if we feel like we don't have time for that. Just because, I don't know, sometimes hearing it, some of us absorb it differently. Sure. You want us to pick us off with the mission statement?
Hey, I like the mission statement. The Longmont Public Library leads the community as the essential, welcoming space for all to learn, grow, and be.
The Longmont Public Library aspires to enrich lives through diverse and meaningful collections, programs, and services for all, regardless of who they are and how, when, or where they engage with us.
So core values, we are leading. We lead Longmont by responding to and initiating change, meeting needs and aspirations of our communities through innovative programs, services, and collections. Keep going,
Do one more.
Okay. Equitable. We serve our community by being culturally responsive, breaking down barriers, and providing equitable access to everything the library offers.
We are protective. We protect and defend the right of all community members to read and access library resources as they choose, while also protecting their privacy and confidentiality. we are fun. We take pride in being a source for fun, entertainment, and inspiration, contributing to a sense of joy and happiness.
Nicole, close us out.
Yeah, we are connecting. We are the community hub who connects people with information, programs, and to each other. We are supportive. Library staff create a work culture of accountability for a unified approach to library service and community building.
Are you looking for feedback? Or are you just
I mean, I can, well, no, I mean, feedback is welcome. I can also talk through a little bit of how we arrived at some of those things, if that's helpful.
I mean, I personally, trust the process. It seems like it came up with something really good, really rich. I feel like it all lands for me. The only little question mark I have is the word protective. But so maybe a little commentary on that choice.
Well, the core values didn't start out with, they were more, what were they? They were like action verbs. Yeah, and then, but it wasn't working because then we had to work like fun and equitable.
Right.
And so we kind of talked through that, and then, and we didn't have the "we are" statement before either.
Okay.
And so we added the "we are" and then all these things. And I don't think I disagree. Protective is a word that kind of jumps out at me, like we're protective. But the content of the statement
Yes, I agree.
is fine. And I think, and I could say the same thing for leading. If you don't have the explanation, it's like leading.
Right.
So I hear what you're saying, but it kind of came out from how it was structured before. So the core values were, I think, lead, equitable, protect,
Right.
Fun, connect, and support.
Right.
And I liked how we landed on this.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I like the overall structure. I think there's just something about protective that feels like a little bit on the defensive or something.
It's also the repetition of having protective and then protect and protecting
Yeah.
in the same sentence. But I wasn't going to bring it up because I hadn't landed on a good synonym.
Right. I know. I'm thinking that too.
I was also
Respecting privacy and confidentiality.
Respectful.
I was trying to see if I
I'm
could
trying to think of, like,
things to nouns,
advocating?
like roles
So
or
I think,
guardians.
it's a little repetitive, and it's also a little bit deliberate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the idea of protecting someone's right to read in the current political climate, I think everyone was feeling very strong that repeating it in various forms is fine. We are not giving in to censorship.
Yeah.
Not just that, but anything else that we, as a public library, would defend. So I think we went through some of these synonyms. Thank you.
Yes.
And it felt like it started to soften.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing inaccurate. Like there's nothing that I would challenge content-wise about this.
No, I appreciate it. I figured it would help to know.
It's almost-
we
it's
kind of did
like-
wordsmith that a lot,
We're
and
like standing strong, right?
Yeah.
Like in the face of this. Yeah. But that's not one word.
I think the sentiment, though,
Yes.
is follows the tone of the mission statement in its boldness. And I think not shying away from that strong language and those bold stances is a refreshing direction to see a city institution take. I really appreciate the work that went into this. I mean, this is indicative to me of a great deal of work to get it down to this form. Other than the protective question mark, I think there was a comma that I wanted to put in there. Like, seriously, this is really
Oh my
something.
God. So I gotta tell you, there was a lot and way too much conversation, in my opinion, on the use of commas in the Oxford comma versus, and I was just like, I was out of my mind.
Oh, you're an Oxford comma person.
Well, me too. I was like, that's not.
I've learned.
Have you seen
I
my shirt?
learned very quickly
Yeah.
that there's a lot of passion.
Yeah.
So there's
There
a lot of
is.
punctuation
There is.
passion.
I've gotten.
There is.
Yeah,
I have
and I was
posters.
like, I'm looking at this from.
Content.
Do you understand what this means?
Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna die on the hill of a comma or not, but it was fascinating to me. So it's just kind of funny to hear it come up now because.
Oh, you should see delegate.
I gave my
assembly
staff a
of
hard time.
Teachers, the National Education Association delegate assembly of 10,000 teachers, wordsmithing
Yeah.
a resolution
Yeah.
or a document or
Or
with
reading.
those commas.
Yes, I was gonna say, or read the court opinions that
Right.
completely turn on commas because of what they do in the meeting or the whole thing.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where style guides can be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But ultimately, it comes down to, can you read and comprehend the intended meaning of the sentence? As is.
I'm curious about something. Basically, how you came to. So I agree with Jamie in terms of the like strong language, especially in the mission statement. And like, I'm curious about the leading aspect of this, like the leads the community. I think it's a really interesting phrasing for what the library is, especially in core values. This is we are leading, and then it says we lead Longmont, and then it says by responding to, and then initiating change. Right. I'm just curious in this exercise how much does the library, the community there, intend to be leaders, and what does that kind of look like for the library with this mission statement and these values? Is it something that I guess I often see the library as a place where people go there, they're seeking out answers, things like that, right? But how much of this mission is actually attempting to lead, to be kind of more active in enacting change in the community, things like that? Like, what is that? I assume that that's something that came up if this is like what the mission statement and the core values are saying. So I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about how you guys came to that language.
Well, I mean, some of what you've said, I think at least in a lot of the way I was presenting some of this is not being what I would see a lot in public libraries. And I think we do need to be responsive, but I think libraries don't take enough action to be proactive in initiating change. And I think in some of this, I think some of this is it's also a marketing tool in a way. I mean, we believe it, but I want to present ourselves as someone that is a leader. We're the most visited building in the city. We're the information point in the city, education. It's like everything comes through the library. And I want to be very deliberate and with this strong language, like, no, if you need something, you come here. And if we don't have an answer, we'll get you the answer. But I think, for me, that's a lot of it. And I think there was just a lot of buy-in from staff on that and why you're seeing it written that way. If that makes sense. Partially.
Yeah, I guess it's still maybe it's just the language, maybe it's a semantics thing, but I guess it's still like a kind of when you said, if you have a question, come to us. I think when I think leads, I think of it more like even more active, like we're gonna bring the information to you, like that kind of thing, like this very like.
Yeah, and I think that is part of it though. So I mean, that's the leader part, and you'll see a lot of words. It's in here and then throughout the plan as we've been drafting it. I've been incorporating the word essential a lot because I feel like the library is essential, and we need to be seen that way equally. We might see ourselves that way, but that's not enough. And I think a lot of that has come out over the years that there's just a lot of people rely on the library for whatever it is. And so, yeah, we can respond to it, and I think it's important that we're responding to it, but I think are we delivering it? Yes. I mean, in creating it and doing all these things. So some of the value, what we value, I think is also a vision of what we are aspiring to be as well. You know, I don't know that we're there yet, but I think we take value in it.
I think the only other thing like that came to my mind was the inspiration piece. I know you have it under fun. I don't know. I guess I feel like that's like the core heart of a library for me. So maybe I just want it in bold letters and hold it up front. I think fun is important too, obviously, but I don't know. I'm just curious about how inspiration got kind of like tucked into fun.
I think it was how it ended up getting written, but the concept of fun, it was very important to some staff members that we have a core value in there that's not all about what people think of the library is like access to information and education. It's like you can also have fun here.
Mm-hmm.
And inspiration can fit in any of these, I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that we necessarily talked about that, I'm just saying that now, but the whole idea of fun, and there was some conversation about having that or not, or not the word fun, but something else. In fact, I think inspiration was one of them. It's sort of changing that, but I felt like or the team in large part felt it changed the tone of that.
No, I think there's a lot of value in fun. I guess I feel that they're sort of separate, but that's my perception.
I think it's probably fine where it is. It could also fit really nicely with the leading and inspire. I'm very glad that there is a bullet point in there that mentions joy. And that's become like a really key word for me this year in contrast to happiness and fun and entertainment. They all have a little bit of a different flavor to them. And joy is a form of resistance. Joy is a means of survival. Joy is something that we can choose, and we can find in small, actionable packages, right? So I'm glad that joy is mentioned specifically. Fun, I like fun too, but fun can be interpreted as maybe a little bit like more optional, right? Like fun is great, but can't all be fun. You have to have work and just picture of my parents. But joy is, and then happiness is so elusive. It's good. Any last comments?
Thank you for taking the time to work on this yourself.
It's really exciting. Like I'm so jazzed I'm so excited to see the final strategic plan when it's done.
I am too. It's been it's hard sometimes, but it's been fun to work through it and just kind of as a team and kind of hear what staff are coming up with and what resonates, because we just haven't had anything in a while. We certainly haven't had a plan like this that has been changing our mission statement, which hasn't been changed in years for that's just much more in alignment with how people are thinking. And like I said, either how they see ourselves now or how they want to see ourselves. And I'm fine with having statements in here that are visionary in nature, even if we're not the leading department right now. You know what I mean? Or whatever that might mean. I just think, well, we're going to be. So let's just put it in there.
That's right. We're certainly leading in several areas, in several spaces.
I don't think that we're not. I just mean,
Make it have to make it a competition.
No, but I also think just to have staff in that mindset, can mean a lot for how someone approaches their job, their day.
Yes.
If you kind of see yourself as these things, and if
of
any one of these or all of them ideally resonate with you, that goes a long way with staff.
Well, it's purpose, right?
Purpose. Yep.
Anybody would like to take a moment and grab a treat or a beverage?
All right, are we continuing?
We shall.
So director report, because I can't talk enough.
Really, honestly.
What more could you possibly have to say?
I don't know what else anyone could want. So I mostly with my direct report, I just wanted to share a few new things that are coming up in our next winter spring brochure. This is a draft. I'll cover over
Okay.
I like that.
that we've been starting to do these brochures now for about the last year, Tracy. Almost.
I love it.
These
I
are
love
really
the
nice.
size.
People love them.
Yeah, oh, I love
And the winter spring, so January through April-ish, May-ish. Some popular coming backs are the gardening fair, and the seed library. But some new programs. The children's department is implementing a new program called Stay and Play. And it'll be a 30-minute session following the story times. And basically it's a way to have sensory experience and things like that. A lot of story times incorporate that anyway, but this will be a lot more deliberate and extended time, and it's optional. I mean, it's all optional, but anyway. It was something that Claire and maybe one other, but anyway, there was a children's librarianship-related conference that happened to take place in Denver this year. It's a national conference. It was back in the fall or so, and they went to a session that presented this concept, and so we're bringing it back and implementing it. This is why we send people to professional development, right? So that's one thing. We're continuing to expand our board game collection, and that's goes without saying that that's all funded by the Friends of the Library. But it's hugely popular. We're doing programming around it, or just people can just check out games. We're getting new games. One that was requested, a Spanish language game, and Tracy had to order that. We had to get permission to buy it because it was from a non-US website.
Wow.
But that's coming on the way. And then finally, a new language program that Lily in our outreach program created called 1,000 Words in English and More. And we have some language programs. They're more conversational, like Say Hello, which is like come in,
Yes.
kind of just, Talk or Not or whatever. They're really good programs, but this is very much targeted towards really new immigrants or people that are new to English in a safe place. And I guess I could just read you the description. This is somewhat of a draft, but join us to practice essential English words and phrases for everyday use in a friendly, supportive group setting. We'll focus on key vocabulary to help you build confidence and fluency at your own pace. Friendly, fun opportunity to practice English so you can navigate everyday situations like shopping and social interactions.
That's nice.
Come speak, read, and listen with other adult learners. And the way Lillian's approaching this and has come up to this concept is with her outreach of getting some of that feedback from people. And it's a program that she's doing that will actually take place here, but she is trying to bring people in from some of these outreaches that are not coming to the library. And in part, and what she's learned is, well, they're not coming because there's a sense of fear. They don't really know what to ask for. So come here, do this, you'll feel better about it, and then she can introduce them to the library. So that will be something that'll start up in January sometime. So those are, that's kind of what I wanted to share in the report, basically. It's just what's coming up. We're loosely talking about summer reading, we just already, because we have to plan for that and what at least a launch might look like, but also as a program, doing some more collaborative programming, particularly internally. So children's, of course, that's the biggest one. People do summer reading, it's children, but adult does a program too.
I liked it.
And last year we experimented with at least one collaborative program around it at the end, meaning it was an adult and it was like a family program around Mario Karts, and it was really popular. And so we want to do more of bringing these two age groups together around programs, which is really a goal in general. But in summer we talked about that a lot, and then coming up with some new ideas to launch it. At least for kids, there's always been like this big pool party at Sunset Pool, which has been fun, but we're talking about maybe changing that up this year, which I think would be good. It's hard, that one's hard on the pool staff. And so we could probably do some other things that also would be maybe more conducive to the adult side.
So not an adults only
Launch, correct.
Like
It'd be much more
brewery.
library summer reading. Yeah. I mean, one of the ideas floated was to do like a movie in the park kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then someone had mentioned getting the students at the Innovation Center and finishing up that film with a drone show.
Oh my god, my son still talks about 4th of July.
The 4th of July, yeah. So I think
That was amazing!
I'm like across I live like a block away from that. It was incredible. I toured the Innovation Center and I got to see like all the drone stuff, and they showed us like a film of the drone, like a drone filming a drone, like what it's like, to be piloting. I mean, it was incredible.
Wow.
It was so impressive.
so we so we're already starting to talk about
Very
that.
drones. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be cool. So.
Are you continuing the dog reading program? And like, it's like that.
Yep. And also, I just thought about this now. My tech guy and myself met with Helen Robin, your district librarian, Helen Robbins. Anyway, and somebody else from the DTS side who, because this whole library student ID, looking for certain library things. So we're making some progress there again. It kind of got really stopped, and it's kind of getting regenerated to be a little bit simpler in my mind than how it started, which was before I was here. So instead of that ID working as a full library card, it would just be for electronic, like digital access, and initially only targeted to high school students, because that's the likely audience for that. but there's still the school side of permission.
Yeah.
I've made my case as a public librarian, and you can just do that as opt out. But that's easy for me to say.
Yeah.
The district wants signatures from parents because the reality is they'll have access to a lot more in a public library than they do in their school libraries because it's not all age appropriate. It doesn't mean there's bad stuff. It's
It
just
should still be not in an unscalable wall.
so we're going to try it again. I think that's good. And so there's been a little bit of movement on there. And I think, they want to get this permission rewritten because the program has changed. And so I saw a draft of that and had an option to have some input. I didn't have too much on that side of things, but I think they're looking at this point in the game, it would be maybe a beta testing with a school or two,
Okay.
but really full implementation in the fall.
Like piloted with a school or two.
Yeah, there's a couple of schools. One is Niwot.
Oh,
I think that's
okay.
where the IB program is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then one other school, and I think what she did, Helen, was basically put a feeler out of anybody that would be interested in kind of testing and piloting the program, and I think 2 responded, and that was one of them, and I can't remember the other one.
Was it Skyline?
No, it wasn't in Longmont.
Okay. Oh,
Neither was in Longmont,
interesting.
as far as I remember.
It's me, it's
No, it
out
wasn't
of
me.
Erie.
I want to say it was maybe, but Erie was
I would
in
be
the
surprised.
initial testing way back when that didn't work, but they were testing it in the middle school. And the timing, in my mind, didn't seem great. Anyway, I'm just
Okay.
I'm just glad it's still in the picture because at one
Yeah.
point I think the people I was working with the district were like, well, no one's really responding. I don't think this is going to work.
Yeah.
And I know with these things like on the district side, everyone's strapped for time 1,000,000%.
Yes.
And I think me trying to garner more of their time
Yeah.
to get things like this implemented. But the reality is when they did test it, or at least the technology piece of it works. Like we were
Okay.
able to successfully transfer student data into our integrated library system, and we could see that was working. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of the hard work.
Okay.
Then you get into, well, what data are we transferring, and which affects permission. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff, but I think a lot of that was worked out. It was just more they weren't getting parental buy-in,
Okay.
and I think they have some ideas of how they can better get that now.
Okay.
So,
Good.
so there's movement on there. Anyway, that's my add-on to what I was going to do in the director report.
Was it Frederick?
I don't remember now. If you name every high school,
I'm not
under-
gonna make
Never
it.
gonna get it.
No, I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just saying.
No, I
It's a challenge.
I didn't want you to think that I was
How many-
gonna sit here and rattle on.
I was like, no, I mean,
I'm like, I don't know, Jamie, stop. Like,
That's fun.
I was gonna ask about that one because I've been in their library and they have a big
it
library.
could be. I just can't. Yeah. I'll have to look back at the trails
It
on
means
that.
nothing, actually.
I mean, I think it's okay that they're not Longmont schools, because
Yeah.
Longmont students do have access here nearby.
It's true.
But I was hoping Skyline because of its proximity to the youth center
Right.
and
And it
Right.
may be.
Access to
It
books.
may be. There was. Maybe it was. I just, for some reason, the only reason I'm remembering Niwot is because of the IB program. And that, not that that's related to this, I just remember that aspect, and that's why I'm remembering that school. But anyway,
I hope they can find a solution to the permissions thing.
Yeah.
Because the section in Infinite Campus which is the app we have as parents, of all the forms and all the permissions that we need to sign, it seems very straightforward and maybe not the biggest hurdle to pop another one in there, but
Yeah.
I don't know all the
Vinny,
details.
is this just because they don't want to draw a lawsuit?
no, I think when they tried it before, it was a timing issue, and
Okay.
I think if they do it this way and kind of test it, a little bit, and then if they do at the beginning of the school year where more parents are paying attention to what they need to sign,
Yeah.
they were
Right.
trying to do this in the
Just
middle of the
yeah.
school year.
No, you're right.
You know, no one was checking their emails anymore, and so now to be like a part of the
Yeah.
the beginning of the school year sort of
Yeah.
things you need to do as a parent.
Right.
Yeah.
All these things,
Opting out of all
including
these
library
things.
access,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then they'll get signed.
Right.
So, I
That's
mean,
good.
I could have told them that before, but it
Yeah.
didn't work here. So.
Where were you?
Why are you asking somebody in like February? Who
Right.
cares?
It's like
Yeah.
signing on permission slip.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's all I have for section 6.
6A.
So 6A.
Questions for John?
The library does field trips. Did you know that? It says it on the website that teachers can schedule field trips.
Yes, and they have, and they do.
Oh.
Yep.
okay.
Spell
Yeah,
In springtime.
yeah, you should. And Lillian does a lot of those now, and she's
Okay.
so good at it.
Okay.
And particularly if you have bilingual students, but I mean, it's
Yeah,
like, it doesn't
no.
matter. She's just phenomenal. She does pretty much all the tours like that. If they want something more, we had a high school group come in
Uh-huh.
that, and it was bigger than just a tour.
Yes.
So we combined it with a tour and then some team programming. So then Lillian did tours with some other staff because it was a large group. And then the teen librarian and some other children's staff did programming,
Mm-hmm.
like a team program like they would do
Yeah.
any day. It was
So-
really good.
Because what we've done in the past for Longmont history, for, Colorado history, local history, we've done Old Mill Park, and then has gone to the museum. We've also done the museum and the Innovation Center. It would be pretty cool to do Old Mill Park and then come here.
Mhm.
And actually walk.
We should.
Walking distance.
Yeah.
Thinking about that, we could do an activity. And we could start boosting that up, getting on social media.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, friends of the library. Gotta take care of our friends. Friends of the Longmont Library concluded their fourth book sale of the year. I think it was fairly successful. The final numbers are not available just yet, but they are hoping to crack 10. 10,000. The sales felt a little bit dampened compared to the previous 3 sales. But when we looked back in our notes last December, we were wondering the same thing. Just, the questions that come up are, is this really a good time to have a sale? Was this the week to have it? Should it have been next week? Should it have been a week earlier? That sort of thing. Maybe it's just the sale that is worth having, but it is always going to fall in that number 4 slot because of timing and folks' availability and willingness to come out. You could, I think, speculate in many directions, but they did a few different things this time, trying to make it a little bit more festive and more of like an experience, especially the opening night, where it was really just shopping for friends, members only. They offered some cookies and cider to the public all 4 days. They also introduced this idea, try something new, right? They try this idea of gift baskets. So the premise was you pull a few books together around a theme. Could be a children's theme, could be an adult's theme, and then you maybe pull in a few coordinating small objects like a couple gardening books, and you'd have like a couple little gardening tools and maybe some seeds, or cookbooks, and then a set of dish towels and like some utensils, something like that. So they made 23 of these baskets. They were all very attractive and wrapped in clear cellophane so that you could see the contents. They were priced around $25 each. I think a few were more than that. And they sold all but one. That's awesome.
Whoa.
They sold 22. So by my very cursory estimates, that was over $500. Now some of that, that's not $500 net because I think some of the items that were paired with the books were purchased. But anyway, it wasn't a failure, and it did have like this arresting impact when we walked in through that entrance, and we saw this colorful table of wrapped baskets, and they all had books in them, so it still felt like aligned with the friends of the library. It wasn't like, what are these doing here? Where this is a book sale?
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I was there volunteering 2 days, and everything just seemed like it was going well and steady, just maybe not as didn't hit like, I think we got to 12 of the sales, and that was like our record. We didn't break any records. Other Friends news, there has been some recent turnover in their board. Their membership coordinator, Linda Stewart, tendered her resignation, and the sale, or this meeting, the Friends meeting last week was her final meeting in that capacity. And then we received word that the treasurer, Frank, was also stepping away to pursue other things. So that leaves them with 2 seats on their board to fill. And those are 2 active roles with specific tasks. So I believe for the time being, the treasurer's tasks will be held by the Friends president, and she will ask for support where she needs it. The membership, I think that role can be shared with a couple of the other board members, but they have a pretty strong need to recruit and may be challenged in doing so, at least in the short term. I think the conversation at the meeting seemed to be around who do we know, who might we recommend or talk to, and not so much outreach into the community and pulling some new energy in from that the board might not have even met those people. They're not close to it, but I did ask for clarification in the meeting whether it was a requirement to serve on their board that that someone volunteer first, either in the sorting or the shop or at a sale, so that board members got a sense of who they were as individuals, and the individuals got a sense of what the workings of the Friends look like. So no answers yet, but it's unfortunate because those people have been involved for a few years and carry a bit of institutional memory around how those sales function. I mean, Frank and Linda have specific roles on the board, but they also have specific sets of tasks that they do for each and every sale that may actually be more integral to the success of those sales. So that might actually be a harder thing to fill than their board duties. I share that with you for information, and also if you know anyone or you encounter anyone and you're talking about the library and they love the library and they want to get involved, to maybe point them in their direction, because they are open to meeting people and hearing from their voices.
How have they recruited in the past?
Through who they know.
Okay.
So they are getting a specific demographic, tends to be older, but a lot of this work is happening during the day.
Yeah,
So
that's-
people who are retired,
Yeah.
this makes sense.
Yes.
And the two roles are director and treasurer? No,
Membership coordinator
membership coordinator.
and treasurer.
Their job
And-
descriptions?
Maybe.
Their website does have volunteer descriptions, I was just looking.
Oh yeah.
I didn't see those two things.
I think the roles for those board duties may be written down, at least generally.
Yeah.
I don't know if the sale responsibilities,
Right.
which aren't related to their board
Okay.
duties, right? So Frank does a lot of physical work at the sales, moving the pallets of books up from downstairs, and kind of he's IT for the iPads that are used at checkout,
A
and
lot of technical abilities.
card readers and things like that. Not a tremendous amount, but it's valued knowledge in that group. I wonder, it would be a question whether at least some aspect of those board duties though, could really be fulfilled virtually. In other words, someone who is interested might need to commit to that one meeting a month like we do. And then they would have some additional tasks that they could perform on their own time.
If they could, I'm just spitballing, but if they could kind of articulate it as like a little blurb, I could reach out to my teacher friends, because there's a ton of high schoolers who want to get volunteer hours. And a lot of them like to do just kind of something they can have their earbuds in and be told what to do and just do it, you know? So if they just need to carry books up and down stairs, and they could just, you know, some of them want to be more hands-on and involved, and a lot of them bring a little tech ability.
Okay, so you're talking about like the sale.
Yeah, like maybe just those
Those.
pieces, and they could decouple it maybe from some other things, you know, like kind of, instead of looking for one person to replace all of that. Like some of that feels like it could be one-off volunteer work.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be someone who's intimately involved with the organization necessarily. Great if there was someone, but I could definitely see if there were just some high schoolers who wanted to come to it.
Yeah.
I could also volunteer my option. They're a middle school worker. Start.
Bring that to them, thank you.
The last thing I'm just going to briefly mention, because I plan to say more, and I really was hoping that Katie would be here, or I was expecting Katie would be here, that somewhere along the way I got confused, and I apologize if I misunderstood or misinterpreted something. Because I could not find written down in my notes where something was decided, and that includes minutes, but when I began in this role as chair in the summer, I had asked this board if there was anyone at that time who would be willing to step into the Friends Liaison role, just so that I might be able to pull back a tiny bit And at that time, no one volunteered. I said I was able to stay on for as long as I could and fill both of those roles until such time that someone else could take the liaison piece. I think I thought I heard Katie say that she was the liaison or was going to be the new liaison. And I don't know where that was decided
I have a big memory of that
or
too, but
agreed to. I know that I said to her either officially or unofficially that she would be good in that role, that I could see her in that role.
are the minutes searchable? Like, as a single doc, or you have to go in each one?
So you're going to ask to go in each one, because if there's PDFs in
I scanned them and I didn't see that as a decision made at this
If
board.
you could like control F Katie's name.
From what I remember from those minutes, it wasn't an official decision to make Katie the actual liaison. I feel like the phrasing was more of her as alternate in your place, Jamie.
Like
So
a
I
like
think,
phone
yeah, I
or
think it was also kind of as a supportive
Okay,
type of thing, rather than specifically that was her role.
okay. There was almost a little misunderstanding this past meeting because I did not receive any of the meeting prep materials as I usually do. And so I remembered Katie saying that recently, identifying herself as the liaison. I was like, oh, I guess I forgot that was happening. That's why I didn't get the email. I guess I'm not going to that meeting. And then the day of the meeting, I get the email, oops, I don't know how you fell off, but here's all the stuff, we'll see you tonight. P.S. you're on the agenda.
Oh, no.
And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, wait a minute. And then I tried to get in touch with Katie. So I'm gonna keep trying to connect with her and sort this out. But it may come up again, not for you, because I don't know yet, but I may have more on my plate in January professionally, like in my job. So I just gotta see if things start to feel a little bit unwieldy.
Yeah. Do the friends allow for a split, so alternating liaisons?
Yeah, they'll allow for.
So then, I'm almost wondering too, that might be a good way
We
to
could
rope one
share
in,
it.
and 2 new people too. So Katie and
Right.
one of the other people, if it's too much for one person.
Totally.
And what time are them? Like, what are the meetings?
They are once a month. They're usually the week after us,
Fourth Wednesday.
the fourth Wednesday, and they start at 6:30. 6. I don't know. They start at 6.
I came at 6:30, or no, I came at 7, but we have a regular meeting.
Oh,
Well, that was the special
That was-
one.
Yeah, the special one.
Their normal meetings are at 6 on the fourth Wednesday.
that's right. And they're usually over before 8.
Usually before 7, yeah.
30.
15. They're not.
No,
Well, they're. To be fair, I mean, their agendas aren't as structured, but it just depends on.
It's not a long meeting.
It's not a long meeting.
That's
Yeah.
City council.
So we are appointing making our final decisions on boards and commission appointments. And that's on our agenda tomorrow under general business. The other thing that, and I don't know if you had a chance to see it, I was looking for it online. I lost it again. I know it's on the City of Longmont Facebook page, but the Ward 2 seat,
Yes.
so last, what's it? You could sit here.
Do one
I
of those
was going to
circles.
ask you what the
Face
process
here.
was for that.
So we are accepting applications. So you send in an application and then it will allow us to review. And my understanding of the conversation was that, we would narrow it down, and then we'd have an open forum type where people would be able to, potential candidates would be able to speak
I see.
on their behalf. And then we would have to appoint. So Councilmember Martin resigned after that marking where
You could
it
have a
was
special
a
election.
special election.
Right, yeah.
So it had already passed that deadline.
Yeah.
So we would appoint someone for the duration of her term, which will end next November. So it's less than a year position.
And then they could choose to run again.
They
Then
could
they
just
would
run again,
Term
yeah.
out or something,
Yeah, they could, and then, so they would still be eligible to have two terms in office, so in addition to the year or half year that they fulfill. And so we will be looking to appoint the new person at the last Tuesday of January. Calendar. I think so we have council tomorrow, then nothing on the 24th and 31st. On the 7th, so we have the Longmont Housing Authority Commissioners meeting, so we do not have a city council meeting. On the 14th, I believe the 21st is when we'll have the forum for potential candidates. That's on the 21st, and then the 28th, we would be appointing them. We would make our decision, and then look to get them sworn in, do it the following week.
Does it seem to be a competitive field at this point?
I have no idea. So a lot of people on social media are, they're very vocal.
Yeah.
It's like, fill out a form.
Yeah.
See you there.
That's right.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. So
And
that
people who love to
position is-
complain without voting, right?
Hmm?
It's like people who like to complain without voting.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
So. Yeah.
It's being advertised on the city's.
It's on the
social media.
website, social media. I saw some things posted out in the city communications that I get in my email. So I think they're trying, they're working really hard to get that pushed out. The other, so we have that, we have the council appointments. So today we have our grand opening for the Zinnia project. So the Zinnia is 55 permanent supportive housing units. And that is something we've been working on since I first got elected. We went out, it was in the middle of COVID, we went to tour a couple of places, one in Pueblo and then one in Denver, the Dolores Project. And looking at trauma-informed design, what permanent supportive housing looks like, how would we handle, the finance, the kind of finance mechanism that we use. So we're doing this through our housing authority capacity, but also through Longmont City Council, and just kind of interviewing with Element Properties and other tax credits and other state and federal funding opportunities that we've been able to tap into. So within 2 weeks, they were totally booked out. So they have people that come in. It was amazing to hear personal testimony. So hearing from the residents, and then the resident opened his home for us to look in, and it was amazing. Somebody who'd been on the streets for several years, and to finally be able to be inside and have a home and have a place that, and be able to have food that you used to not be able to have before. He was showing us cans of tuna and cans of the canned food that he would never be able to have before because he was in the streets. And then, and just, people were so appreciative and so grateful for this opportunity. And one man was, I just feel so blessed. I just cry.
Oh.
And so we need more of that. We need more of these kind of opportunities to get people housed and on this path to self-sustainability.
What is the supportive piece?
So the supportive piece is so we have caseworkers who work with a small group of residents on job, how to find a job, how to keep a job, how to do their bills, and just going from fight or flight to being, just cognitively, just a higher level of thinking as far as organizing what you need to organize in order to function. And there's also therapy, supports for drug addiction, recovery, and so it's the whole gamut. Yeah, and then so it does have trauma-informed design. So when you go in there, you don't feel enclosed. The ceilings are really high. People can look and see things around the corners, so it doesn't trigger anxiety or. So that was really exciting. We had that going on this morning.
Awesome. I wasn't aware of that project.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That's so
no.
exciting.
And so we recently also did a groundbreaking over on North Hover, near 17th and Hover. We have a Longmont Housing Authority property there, and that's for Ascent at Hover Crossing, which will be, I can't remember the number now, but it's larger units for families, so 3 and 4 bedroom apartments. And we've also got a little creative to incorporate a daycare center. So we'll be partnering with Wild Plum to provide childcare. Yes.
Awesome.
And we were looking at, I know we were looking at like a storefront library or something.
Yeah, early on in that
Early on in
conversation,
that
there was talk about that.
Yes, and just, maybe looking at something nearby.
Yeah.
So that we can incorporate.
Well, I still want that bank building. Still empty. Still waiting for a renovation to fit a library. It's a perfect
It
location.
is a perfect location, and then with those housing coming up.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's exactly where people need a library.
Is that on Hofer? That's on.
That's
It is
on over in 17th, right on the,
Right,
it used to be
yeah.
Sunflower Bank.
Yes. Oh, yes.
They still have the signs in the drive-in window.
Oh, they do?
Like, as of whatever 2018, we've moved. That's
Yes.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least when I went to look at it, Jeff and I went, but that was like a year ago.
Yeah, and I did speak with Harold about the idea of putting money toward, lockers.
Right, yeah.
Yes, and so he had also suggested, he goes, well, Susie, do what you want, if you want, the council contingency funds to do that. But, he said, I also have contingency funds that we could be able to do that.
Oh.
So we'll talk
Okay.
later about that, but to get some lockers for people to return.
Whole pickup
Return
lockers
books.
and maybe vending machine. It's like a pseudo vending machine.
Yeah, but in an area that, I'm thinking over by Centennial Pool,
Yep.
like that, or the youth center.
That'd be great.
That part of town. That would be helpful.
Is a bookmobile still on your budget or dream list?
Yeah, I
was just thinking about it earlier.
I have I'll probably put it in the 2026. I mean, I have a fund that I always intended to pay that out of, that Mosher fund that we talked about here.
Yeah.
I didn't put it in 2025, but I probably will. And it would be like a resource van,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So like, and that could help with a lot of things, this included, like if we actually had pickup locker somewhere, we
Right.
need a way to bring
Move
materials.
things around. Yeah.
You know, and then, but also, like an outreach component.
Right.
We could kind of retrofit it to have some other resources on there to get out there better.
Thank you, Susan.
Of course. I don't have any library profession news. I feel is super. Sort of that article. That's
There
what I
was,
was
yeah, what
looking
was
at.
the article?
Yeah. Oh, that guy. I followed him on
Mental
Instagram.
Oh,
Yeah.
the one that was shared?
Yes.
So didn't I mention that at the last meeting?
Yeah.
And then I didn't have printouts to share at that time, but,
It did come up last month.
it was about, it was in the Times about, the library profession kind of being under attack. I might have to print it, so.
So that was the one that you found, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't something new, but I think one or two people last month had asked about how they could find, yes, librarians face a crisis of violence and abuse. It's, being covered half a dozen ways elsewhere, but it felt notable to me because it also focused on that librarian, Michael Threeds, who had been catapulted to viral status through their just very joyful way of being online and their social media. And sort of like this, I feel like it all happened within 1 year, like this rise to like fame where people outside of the library profession knew who he was, and then all of these accolades and recognition, and then right after it people start attacking and tearing him down. So yeah, I don't know, unfortunately I think he became a magnet or a touchstone for like the public sentiment, like on all sides of the issue, public sentiment around librarians. Flashpoint, that's the word I'm looking for, right? Where so many people see him as a folk hero, and many people just make a
This was the librarian from
Yeah, scapegoat.
California.
Yeah.
Solano
Yeah.
County,
Yeah.
that's where I used to live.
Yeah. He
Okay,
was like the keynote speaker at the conference.
Yeah, he worked in the Fairfield Library.
But he's been very public
Yeah.
about that
Mm-hmm.
whole journey,
Yep.
which I think is helpful for the profession.
Yeah.
Because probably the only other place where I've encountered more of that martyrdom complex than when I was working in a school is when I was working in a library. And librarians can take a lot, and there really isn't a way to let that out on the job. So, yeah, I don't have anything new.
Okay.
Nicole, you got any burning ideas, thoughts, reflection?
No, I mean, I'm excited to figure out what, I think we talked about how we were gonna come up with some like goals for next year, so I'm assuming that will be a January discussion, but just kind of like what we're actually focusing on. I don't know, it's my first year, so I'm not really sure what the like rhythm of the year is. I know like budgeting seems to be a big one and things like that, but I guess I'm just curious to learn more about what we will actually be focusing on trying to change next year.
definitely, like maybe the agenda item for next month. It feels right to me to delay that conversation slightly until we have our 2 new members.
Absolutely.
So that we're forming those goals together. I think most, if not all of us, have suggested really good ideas, or at least good buckets for those goals to fit into. Just around advocacy and increased community engagement, increased collaboration with other entities in the city in support of the library. Yeah, we'll have lots to talk about next month for sure.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. It's very bittersweet to me to be signing off, but I will try to tune in virtually. Oh no, I can't tune in virtually. I'll try and come by sometimes.
Watch us online.
I could
Stream
watch us.
us.
I could stream you. I can't keep my mouth
Yeah,
shut.
it's not live stream though. This is one of the boards that's recorded
That's
only.
right. That's right. Well, anyway, I'm very grateful to you all for continuing on, holding the torch aloft, and appreciate all you've done, John, especially since you've come in, and
Thank you.
just been a cool evolution.
Say hi when you're here if you
I
have a
will.
minute.
Yes, I definitely will.
I'm
And
usually here.
who knows? I may be back someday. Just gotta get through this whole
Yeah.
next
Law
big
school
thing
thing.
going on.
So,
Yeah.
unless you want to apply for council.
I was like, my husband will kill me. My husband will kill me.
Tell him to run.
I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, Lordy. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again. Yeah. And thank you for the yummy treats tonight. It's really nice.
We have a card for you, but it's it's electronic, so I'll email it to you.
Well, that's very sweet.
And we will conclude this meeting at 9:12.
Mm.